Hello everyone. How are we all doing today? God, I am particularly white with this makeup. So, here is a replacement stream for the Monday stream. That I missed. And yeah, let's just sink our teeth right into it, I think. And pray to God that for once we do things correctly. And don't alt tab out of the fucking thing again. I'm so pale. So we're on night 10 of, I believe, 17. So... Hi, Course. Yep, we are on night 10 of 17. Oh yeah, you can play this game with the controller. Looking vampy is my goal. So, we have A Nosy Reporter, Fate and Myth Part 2, Juno and Agathon, Strange Bedfellows, Her Master's Voice, Somebody's Watching Me, which and The Scared One. Scarred? The Scarred One. Let's just start from the top and work our way down, I think. You know what to expect when you return to the small bookstore serving as Agathon's haven. The cacophony of occult imagery assaults you from the book covers displayed on the window, but under the fake facade there's something real. This time the Buddhas and satanic Bibles of the Stormfront seem almost funny, or perhaps you've just started to tune into the dry humour of the Tremere. Just as you're about to ring the doorbell, the door opens and Agathon storms out. You step aside just in time to avoid having him stumble into you. Skye, what are you doing here? Hey, please stop giving me a hard time. Why are you being such a dick? I came to help you. Agathon looks at your outburst in surprise. Keep your emotions under control, otherwise you're no use to me. Now let's go. Agathon walks to his car with you in tow. It didn't occur to you the last time, but it's a surprisingly pedestrian vehicle, an aging mid-sized family sedan. You imagine what it would look like with a baby seat in the back. Opening the door on the driver's side, Agathon notices your look. Laugh all you want, but it's inconspicuous and practical. You sit in the car, and Agathon starts driving in his usual careful style. At least you'll never be stopped by traffic cops. It seems Agathon's not interested in small talk. I love a good mystery as much as the next vampire, but at some point you have to tell me what we're doing. Let me ask you a question in return. Have you ever tasted animal blood? From sheep, for example? No. New York's not the best place to hunt for wildlife, you know. You'd be surprised. There's plenty of pigeons, rats, dogs, cats. But your instinct is correct. Animal blood tastes vile. If it didn't, our unlives would be very different. Anyway, something to think about. You exit Manhattan over the Brooklyn Bridge, and soon reach the site of the nightclub that seems to be your destination. It's on the riverfront, a converted former warehouse. With a start, you recognize this place. The club where fate latched its cold, grubby hands onto your soul. You wanted to party, but instead you became a monster. How's that for a hangover? Oh great, we're here again. After Agathon parks the car, it's time for you to enter the nightclub. You glance at the Tremere, evaluating him. It's obvious this is not his kind of place. There's a good chance the research notes are here. Research notes? Yes, and that's all you need to know. There's a line into the club. It looks like a popular spot, even if, based on the crowd, this is not exactly a place for supermodels and celebrities. Wait in line. You join the line with Agathon. He looks uncomfortable, as if he'd hoped that you could somehow get in faster. You're a warlock, surely you can get us out of this line. Use the blood. Cain didn't grant us his gifts for us to use them on something as trivial as this. You stand in line for 15 minutes and eventually get past the bouncer and step inside. The music beats down on you, bringing with it the memories of a human existence. The first time you were dancing with friends, when you flirted with someone on the dance floor. This time it's different. You're a predator, and everyone around you is prey, tightly packed, twitching sacks of blood and tissue. You sense the emotions all around you. Blood tinted with happiness, lust, rage, jealousy, love. A buffet of sensations. Focus. Keep an eye out for trouble while I look for what we came to find. You nod and follow Agathon through the throng, trying to ignore all the warmth, flesh and circulating blood around you. Well, we need to eat. You decide that the opportunity to feed has been handed to you and it would be churlish to refuse. A young Latino man is dancing close to a beautiful drugged-out girl. She takes his face in her hands and kisses him on the mouth. You slide close to them and sink your teeth into the man's neck. He moans from the pleasure of the kiss, and the girl assumes it's because of her. You check to see that nobody's watching and lick the wound closed before you disengage and return to looking for Agathon. You find a young, intense woman pointing a finger at his face. Agathon, you traitor! Don't you dare stand between me and what's mine. You look at the woman in surprise. Her appearance stands in contrast with the anger to her words. Juno, you know Ailing will not let you leave with those notes. Perhaps she won't let you leave at all. Juno pulls close to Agathon's face and stage whispers loudly enough for you to hear her over the music. You're still so brainwashed that you care about what Ailing fucking Sturbridge wants? I'm done jumping through her hoops. I don't know what I saw in you, Agathon. You're such a lapdog. Sorry to interrupt, but is this woman your ex? Yes, we used to date. Maybe we still would if you weren't such a fucking coward, Agathon. That's not fair, Juno. It's fair and you know it. You're too busy licking Ailing's boots to realise what we had. Ailing doesn't wear boots. Don't correct me. With a start, you realise Juno is genuinely upset. It's hard to say how long ago they broke up, but the wounds are still there. You're the kind of man who takes the side of his boss over his girlfriend. Juno's eyes glisten red with the blood of her tears. You look at Agathon with uncertainty. It was for your own good. Juno steps back, suddenly cold, ignoring the people dancing all around. She stares hard at Agathon. The past is the past. The traditions are dead to me. You won't stop me, Agathon. I'll make sure of that here and now. You know I have the power. No, Juno, please. Agathon sounds panicked. He's not worried about his own survival, but the possibility that Juno's going to unleash a genuine masquerade breach. Reason with Juno. Look around you. We're in a crowd of humans. If you start something here, it'll be a masquerade breach. Catching on, Agathon joins into support of your argument. If you break the masquerade, it won't just be Ailing Sturbridge who has it in for you. It'll be Kadir. Juno looks hesitant, worried, and after a moment she steps back. Alright, you assholes. I'll play it cool. She slides into the dancing crowd. You see her move amidst the people, but it doesn't look like she'll start a fight. Give me a few seconds and I'll verify if the notes are here or not. You idle among the dancers, and Agathon prowls clumsily, out of place in the throng. Finally he comes back to you. They were here, but not anymore. The ritual I performed is very reliable. We can go. Juno will probably waste some time trying to find the notes here, and that will give us an edge. You leave the nightclub. Outside, you walk to Agathon's car and drive back over the Brooklyn Bridge to Manhattan, heading for Agathon's haven. Juno mentioned some very personal things. I trust your discretion in not discussing those with Ailing. Of course. Your love life is your business. Thank you. After a while, you reach Agathon's haven and he parks the car. You walk to the occult bookstore and Agathon invites you inside. The smell of incense assaults you as before, making you grateful you don't have to breathe. You follow Agathon upstairs to find Ailing Sturbridge in an armchair reading an old book. She puts a bookmark in place as you come in. You were successful, I hope? No. I'm sorry, the notes were there at some point, but not anymore. That's a shame. I hope you don't run out of time. How did Sophie's little protege do? Agathon turns to look at you. These fledglings come and go. Let's see after a few years. Very true. I'll have to ask Sophie why she took this one in. She must have a reason. We met Juno. Fortunately, she couldn't find the notes either. That's interesting. The High Regent turns to look at you. What was your impression of Juno, fledgling? She was very angry. I don't know what you people did to piss her off. But she's pissed. What we did? Careful now, fledgling. She made her own choices, bad as they are. Anyway, I have some things to discuss with Agathon. Run along now. You leave the occult bookstore, the cheesy mystical music still in your ears as you walk away. You wonder about what happened with Juno. Why is she so anxious to leave her clan? Could she really do that? Could you leave Sophie's service if you wanted to? We're running out of nights. You're in your haven when the intercom rings. Answering cautiously, you hear an old male voice. Hello? I'm calling because a friend asked me to come by and offer you my services. Who is this? It's not important. The man sounds strangely excited, breathing hard. Is this a sex thing? No! I mean, not in that way. I know you're one of them. Please, it's alright. I don't mind. You can drink with me, if you understand what I mean. A man you've never seen before is paying a visit to an apartment not many people know of, offering for you to feed from him. Let's continue this face to face. That's a wonderful idea. Silence. A minute passes and you hear a knock on the door to your haven. You cautiously open the door. A stranger looks at you sheepishly. He's in his 30s, dressed in a clean business suit. He looks moderately successful, someone you could meet in an investment bank. I'm sorry, I didn't want to intrude, so that's why I called from downstairs. You know what? Come in. I was hungry anyway. The man looks comically satisfied as you usher him into your haven. He barely waits for you to close the door before he loosens the collar on his shirt, closing his eyes and baring his neck in quivering expectation. You look at the man, taken aback by such forwardness. Figuring you didn't invite the man here for a chat, you lean closer, take him by the shoulders and sink your fangs into him. It's not an unpleasant way to feed, you reflect as the blood flows into your mouth. The food comes to your door of its own volition. The man moans as you drink from him, lost in the ecstasy of the kiss. It feels a little unseemly, but it would be churlish to begrudge him for his pleasures. Taking care not to drink too much, you let go of the man after licking his wounds closed. Suddenly, you're startled by a surprising sight. A woman, not very old, strangely dressed, is looking at you intently, only an arm's length away. Before you can react, the mysterious woman opens your front door and vanishes from sight, leaving you to wonder whether you really saw her at all. As you stare, confused, the man you drank from slips out of your haven and into the hallway, staggering a little from the effects of the kiss. You close your door, wondering what that was all about. At least you got to feed, if nothing else. Well, that was awkward. Let's head into the park and talk to the gangrel, shall we? Once again, you cross the gate of Prospect Park and head straight for where you last saw the feral duo. Minutes pass. Finding no sign of Tamaka, you begin to worry that something might have happened to her. Suddenly, you hear rustling coming from the nearby bushes, and it's not the stray cat kind of rustling either. Hey, you in the bushes. You know I can hear you, right? The rustling stops, if only for a second. Suddenly, the bushes part and Raoul walks out, desperately trying to look confident. Yeah? That's only because I wanted you to. Listen, I wanted to have a word before Tam gets here. She seems to like you for whatever strange reason, but the way I see it, you're a nuisance at best. At worst, you're a threat. Excuse me, is there a point you're trying to get to? The point is, Tamako's my sister, in every sense of the word that counts. Anything happens to her that I find even remotely your fault, I'm coming after you. Is that clear? Crystal, now get the fuck out of my face. Yeah. Just want to make sure we understand each other. What I'm saying is, if anything happens to Tamika, I'm holding you accountable. All of a sudden, the sounds of footsteps reach your ears. It's just faint enough to not be obstenious, but still loud enough to hear. You can tell whoever's approaching wants to make their presence known. Both you and Raoul turn just in time to see Tamika emerge from behind an old sycamore tree. It's hard to tell just how long she's been listening in on your conversation. In any case, she walks up and speaks, addressing no one in particular. Did I miss anything? Nothing too important. We were just having a chat. Were you now? She gives Raoul a scornful look, like she's about to rub his nose in his own crap. What about? Nothing. You know where to look for me, Tam. Sure do. And with that, Raoul takes his leave. Tamika waits in silence, just long enough to make sure he can no longer hear her, and addresses you. I have a favour to ask. For you? Anything. She raises an eyebrow. Anything, huh? Careful, I might keep you to that. I mean what I said. The look of genuine surprise washes over her face. She blinks as if trying to revert back to her default resting bitch face setting. I have an errand to run. I was hoping you'd come with me. There's a place east of here. It's a short walk. We should be back in 2, maybe 3 hours. Wait, we're walking? As in, on foot? In New York? I don't like cars, alright? They remind me of old times, before I became this. It can be distracting. So can we go? Sure. We can go now if you're ready. Well, alright. And so you head towards the parking lot, accompanied by Tamika and a lot of unanswered questions. Following Tamika's directions, you finally arrive at the Evergreen Cemetery, one of the oldest burying grounds in Brooklyn. You enter through the southern western gate and follow your companion through the sea of tombstones. It's a nice enough place as far as graveyards go, much less homogenized than the usual flat field littered with identical markers. Tamika confidently presses on, swerving and weaving along a pre-programmed path. It's clear that she's been here more than a few times. Heh, pre-programmed, because it's a video game. Finally, she makes a sharp left and takes a few more steps down a gravel walkway, coming to a sudden stop in front of a modest headstone. The inscription reads, Lucas Santiago, beloved sister and daughter, born 1991, taken from us too soon. With her eyes fixed on the grave, she lets an absent-minded utterance. I need a moment alone. Not long. 5 minutes at best. You look around in search of a good spot to wait for her and pass the time. At the far end of a nearby lawn, you notice a lone bench situated under a weeping willow. Suddenly, you hear voices, distant but slowly approaching. Judging by the tone and timbre, you're guessing it's a couple of teenagers out to get their late-night kicks amongst the dearly departed. Might be a good chance to feed. Then again, you could just pass the time walking around the area. It's actually quite nice in a dark and somber way. I'll take a walk. Don't take too long. She throws you a razor-sharp glare. Yeah, like I said, 5 minutes. You spend a few minutes walking around, taking in sights and reading the various inscriptions on some of the older headstones. Finally, you get back to the tree and find Tamika sitting on the bench. Without a word, you sit next to her. You look over to her, doing your best not to stare. She looks down, crossing her arms and putting her hands on her shoulders. In an instant, the ferocious savage disappears, replaced by a vulnerable young woman. I think I'm done. You feel like sharing? No, but I guess I owe you an explanation. She looks away. You can tell she's struggling to open up to you, so you remain silent, trying not to make her uncomfortable. I was embraced not far from here, in this cemetery. A fitting spot, I suppose. It was close to a decade ago. I'd been on the road for a couple of years at that point, hitchhiking from one town to another. New York was supposed to be just another stop. And then I met Jezebel. She was strong, smart, independent, seemed like someone I could trust, someone I could get close to. She never made me feel inadequate or ashamed, and she could hold her own in a fight too. Funny thing though, she only wanted to meet during night time. I didn't think much of it. Even came up with the excuses for her busy, eccentric, whatever worked. Until one night she sank her teeth into my neck. Hey, at least you got to know your sire. Can't say the same for mine. For a brief moment, she looks at you with genuine sympathy. I'm sorry. She then looks away, as if slightly embarrassed by her own reaction. Anyway, she left soon after turning me. I think the conclave of Prague really shook her up. Conclave of Prague? It's a city in Europe. It's supposed to be neutral ground, a good place to discuss politics and strategies. It ended up almost turning into a civil war. Next thing you know, the Anarchs were expunged from the Camarilla. All they'd done for our kind, the blood they'd spilled, it didn't amount to a thing. I can't blame Jezebel for feeling betrayed, but yeah, even though I still had Raoul and Luca, I was still furious and terrified. Luca died a few years later. Operation Lights Out, they called it. A coordinated assault by the Second Inquisition, a genocide by any other name. A family got together, bought up a plot and buried an empty casket. I guess they wanted some closure. Can't fault them there. Even though she's not really here, I'd like to come and visit from time to time. Reminds me of who I am. Keeps me in check. Keeps the beast at bay. Also, this being the place of my embrace, you have to appreciate that level of irony. She straightens up and looks at you as if something just occurred to her. Sorry, I don't know what came over to me. 1 minute more grunts and stares, the next I'm giving you a biography. I guess I'm just tired of being scared, alone. You don't have to be alone. I used to think so, but those were simpler times. At this point, I'm just looking for something to believe in, someone I could give a damn about. You got me, for whatever it's worth. She looks at you. Her mouth drops open ever so slightly. You can tell she wasn't expecting that. Yeah, I do, don't I? You open your mouth, but before you can make a sound, Tamako motions you to keep quiet. She lifts her head and sniffs the air. Her ears pick up and her eyes widen. Suddenly she pushes you with all her strength, sending you flying off the bench. Before you even hit the ground, an immense shape flies into view and smashes down into the bench, splintering it into pieces. With the blood surging through your veins, you pounce onto your feet. You look at the massive fur and muscle that just nearly pulverized you. The creature rears its head, giving you a deranged stare. It turns to Tamaka. She seems utterly terrified, frozen in place as if she literally saw a ghost. You notice the creature shift its weight and prepare to pounce. Feeling as if your muscles have turned to steel, you ram the creature before it can throw itself at Tamaka. The beast flies through the air and smashes its back against a tree. In a matter of seconds, however, it gets back up to its feet. Your attack might have surprised it, but it didn't do any real damage. The creature then turns towards you. For a second or two, it moves its mouth awkwardly, as if trying to remember how to form words. Stay out my ground. The creature runs off towards a nearby clearing when all of a sudden a gunshot sends it tumbling onto the ground. A group of well-armed men in body armor emerge from the shadows in an orderly formation and move in closer around the creature. With your ego sufficiently wounded, you decide to stand your ground. It's one thing to get messed up by some supernatural monstrosity, but these look like ordinary mortals. Still, whoever they are, they seem to know what they're doing. You wipe the blood off your nose and steel yourself for what's to come. All of a sudden, Tamaka grabs you by the arm. No, there's too many of them, come on. Deferring to her judgment, you promptly follow her behind a nearby bush. Luckily, the men don't appear to have spotted you. From the relative safety of the thick foliage, you watch in silence as the group of armed men subdue the creature using steel nets and cattle prods. In the corner of your eye, you catch Tamaka looking away, as if she finds this whole spectacle somehow distasteful. She speaks under her breath, her voice shaking. Can we get out of here? You see no reason to object. The walk back turns out to be quiet and a somber experience. You both walk in silence, the city a blur of lights and cars careening by. You look over to Tamaka. She seems lost in her thoughts. Finally, you decide to break the silence. What the hell was that back there? A werewolf? No. If it were, we probably wouldn't be talking right now. Still, in a way, that might have been preferable. She rubs her temples, trying to collect her thoughts. Among those of my clan, we tell stories of the Scarred One. The Scarred One? That's the only name he's known by. He's a cautionary tale for young gangrel. He's what happens when you let the beast take over. I always figured him to be more of a metaphor. Seeing him in real life, it's like if a Christian just happened to run into Judas one day. and seeing him hunted down by the SI, I don't know what to think. I don't even know where to start thinking. Deciding to give her some space, you spend the rest of the walk in silence. Soon enough, the familiar tree line of Prospect Parks comes into view. You stop by the entrance nearest to Tamika's Haven. She keeps walking without so much as a word or glance in your direction. She stops after several paces and turns back to you. I'm sorry. Thank you for coming with me, but now I have a lot of shit to figure out. Once I do, I'll let you know. And with that, she disappears amongst the trees. Seeing no point in sticking around, you two take your leave. Night 12. Let's go figure out what this nosy reporter wants. The streetlights flitter into the apartment in a stark white glow, as if someone were shooting a movie outside. The art pieces display a tasteful expense, entirely fitting the image you have of Sophie. It feels as if thousands of sins have been committed on these premises, most of them under her benevolent hospitality. Sophie comes to greet you as you enter the living room, shaking her head. You understand that people judge me based on how you dress, don't you? Sophie looks at your clothes as if resigned to your sartorial limitations. I've had other things to worry about than shopping for clothes. Sophie walks to the window and looks out, the streetlight playing on her features. She reminds you of a queen contemplating the unfortunate limitations of her subjects. You think there's a vampire, at least you wouldn't have to worry about the vultures of the press. Unfortunately, when you have power and ability, there's always parasites trying to feed on you. I used to have a journalist friend. Then you know what they're like. That's true, I did used to have a journalist friend. Sophie steps away from the window and settles down on a sofa, a wine glass with red liquid in it. Blood, treated as not to spoil. You've become good at noticing the scent, even from a distance. She doesn't offer you any as you cautiously sit down across from her. This awful man has been stalking my apartment with a camera. He's gone through my trash, talked to the neighbours. Please be a dear and explain to him that there's nothing for him here. Is this about the Masquerade? That's a big deal for us, right? Indeed. You're learning. This must happen often. How do you usually deal with it? Everyone has their own ways. Sometimes the problem goes away with a bit of money or sharp words. Other times you need more. Do you know anything about this reporter? Man, woman, young, old, anything like that? All gossip reporters look the same to me. Time for you to go. I have business to attend to. You leave the apartment as Sophie disappears into another room. You don't have a clear idea of the game she plays with the city's mortal and immortal power structure, but she always seems to be making a move. Outside on the street, there's a slight warm drizzle, and the kind that gets under your clothes and makes you want to take a shower when you get back to your own haven. No reporters immediately jump out at you. Investigate the area. You start with the basics of investigation work. You ask the proprietor of the bodega around the corner, the homeless man sleeping in a nearby doorway, and the doorman of another building whether they've seen anyone strange. Detective work produces results. You get the description of a man who sounds like a reporter. Older, overweight, pasty, and in bad physical condition. Professional camera. Once you know what you're looking for, it's not difficult. You spot a man who matches this description and follow him. You enter an alley, a dark, dingy space between two tall buildings. Once upon a time, a place like this might have worried you, made you think of muggings and violence. Now it's clear that the most dangerous thing here is you. The man you're following seemed to realize this too. He holds his camera in front of him like it's a shield. It's heavy objective resting on his paunch. With a start, you recognize him. You remember the face, the shaded sunglasses from a picture next to a byline in some trashy paper you were reading to kill time. Something about celebrities, scandal, sex. His name is Frank Doherty. You saw him on the street one time with a camera outside a nightclub, probably waiting for someone important to come by so he could take their picture. Hey, don't go around scaring people like that. You're Frank Doherty. I recognize you from that thing. You're a fake reporter, right? I'm a real reporter, damn it. What are you reporting on? I'm not sure you can help me. Well, perhaps you can. Do you live here? I'm working a story on a local resident. Her name's Sophie Langley. Everyone knows her in high society circles. She's a redhead, pretty as a picture, and were a lot of pictures of her through the years. That's the thing, in fact. Look at this. Frank pulls out his phone and starts showing you pictures. Some have been downloaded from news sites, while others are from society pages of newspapers from the past decade. All show Sophie. She has different clothes, hairstyles, makeup, names, but the face remains the same. They're all hot. Other than that, I'm not sure. Come on, look at their face. It's always the same. So why does this matter? Maybe it doesn't, but people are always interested in staying young. 3 words. Extreme plastic surgery. All celebrities do it. Only your doctor's better than the rest. You look critically at the photos on Frank's phone. You're looking for a doctor in an alleyway? Okay, fine. I don't know what this is about. So how would you explain it? It's a hoax. Sure, anything could be a hoax, but I dug up these old papers from the archives myself. I gotta have something usable. Time to do it the Bruja way, I think. The power of the blood makes kindred fearsome killers. Looking at Frank, you decide that you'll administer this beatdown without help from your undead nature. This was the wrong moment to develop professional pride. You punch Frank in the mouth. Perhaps the most important thing about your new vampire existence is getting used to violence. You have to hunt, defend yourself. Frank falls to one knee. This is not defending yourself. Please don't. You smack Frank across the face. You feel his perspiration sticking to your skin. Blood wells from his mouth and you have the sudden urge to bite down and drink. Sophie probably wouldn't appreciate a corpse in an alley next to her home, so you restrain yourself. Frank is on all fours on the wet ground. You pick up his camera and casually fling it into the wall. As someone who owns a camera, the telephoto lens breaks off. Oh my god, please don't. Stay away, and this won't happen again. Run. Frank staggers upright and runs out of the alley as best he is able, leaving his ruined camera behind. You look after his receding figure, wondering if he'll have the courage to return. Sometimes you gotta use a bit of the old ultra-violence. You know, just a smidge. Sorry, I just have a message to answer. Also, happy Pride, everyone. There's some new Pride emotes for you to have a wee peruse at. Those will be staying around for now, but will make a return once we have more emote slots. But for now, we're only available during Pride. Would anyone be interested in, maybe once we finish Vampire the Masquerade, Coteries of New York, a Pride-based charity stream for a couple of Mondays? I've already got a charity picked out and like the layout and everything made, so it wouldn't be too hard. Now, who do we work for? I suppose we go do the faith and myths. We started to look at churches differently since your last encounter with Benoit. You're not sure what happened inside, but it was unavoidable, really. You felt it. When Benoit mentioned that being in the presence of Father Anthony's faith would eventually kill someone like you, an undead being, you believed him. It doesn't seem to be very common, though. In New York, you pass thousands of people every night, and none of them have made you feel so afraid and insignificant. If you were to encounter someone like Father Anthony in the subway or a nightclub, you would know. There are many churches in the 5 boroughs, and you're pretty sure most of them don't contain someone whose faith can touch you in this way. Yet you've become wary. They just might. Still, tonight the cathedral looks as it did as before, a striking landmark acting as a symbol of faith for people who have no idea that vampires exist in their midst. For them, questions of faith and myth are theoretical or philosophical. For you, there's some questions to find the meaning of your new existence. This music's loud. You sneak into the cathedral like an old hand, as if going to church has been a regular part of your life. Inside, the cathedral is almost deserted. You're not sure if you'll be meeting Benoit alone. The idea of feeling Father Anthony's faith on your undead flesh freezes you with terror. He's waiting for you, Benoit that is, in the front pews of the cathedral, in the exact same spot where you saw Father Anthony. Worried, you approach, but you don't feel the touch of faith that shook you before. Benoit nods as you sit next to him in the pew. I don't like this, Benoit, but I guess a lot of kindred are worried about what we really are. You can walk away. Many of our kind choose to live in ignorance of what it really means to be damned. You've had some time to think. I'm guessing you found the touch of Father Anthony's faith hard to ignore. For most people, God's presence is a question of faith. When I talk with Father Anthony, it feels like proof. Benoit is fervent, intense as he speaks. It's clear these questions have consumed his existence. Perhaps they'll consume yours too. Even if we don't believe, this is kindred culture. Our shared stories about where we came from, right? That's one way to look at it. All religions can be reduced to cultural myths if you're so inclined. Personally, I think the reality of our condition proves that this is more than a myth. Benoit looks around, reflectively to make sure no one's listening. There are only a few people in the enormous cathedral, and they don't seem to be interested in 2 loners murmuring to each other in the front pew. You might like ancient history. It might seem like ancient history, things that happened thousands of years ago, but time works differently for our kind. If the stories are true, there are Methuselahs still in existence who walked the earth when Jesus was alive. The only problem is that old vampires lie. They are just history to suit their egos. Surely something was written down before the Masquerade was established. Of course, the Tremere have many interesting manuscripts in their libraries. I've seen a few. If you have the chance, I recommend looking at them. This is how the story goes. Here's your history of Vampire the Masquerade, everyone. God cursed Cain as punishment for the murder of Abel. Cain walked the night, shunned by humanity, and drank blood to sustain himself. Even from the point of our origin, we are damned. However, the story becomes really interesting when we move forward. Cain creates more of our kind, often referred to as the 2nd generation. They lived in the first city, later called Enoch, ruling openly over the city's humans inhabitants. I see the first city as Cain's redemption. Cursed by God to wander, he remade himself as a ruler and a lawgiver, acting as an immortal shepherd to humanity. It only started to go wrong when the 2nd generation begat the 3rd, and vampires started to run amok. What happened to the first city? It was lost in the deluge. Noah had his ark to save him, but our kind had to rely on the gifts of blood. If you're skeptical about this piece of history, remember that even a local flood can bring massive destruction. After the first city, Cain was largely departs the story. Perhaps he was disheartened by the depredation of his descendants. The antediluvians went on to build a second city in imitation of the first, but it's doubtful their rule was just. There are people moving around the cathedral, and both you and Benoit make sure none get close enough to hear you talk. Many of the people you've seen here have been elderly or disabled, so it's not surprising that you hear the squeak of a wheelchair. What alarms you more is that you overhear an older woman speaking with a Russian accent mention Father Anthony. Let's find Father Anthony and see if he can help us. From what I've heard, he's an exceptional man. You turn to look and see two men and a woman, all three in their 50s, clearly well worn by life. One of the men pushes the woman in a wheelchair. She's dark-haired and intense, seemingly only half in this world. Yes, exceptional, but he doesn't like moles. The speaker is shorter of the men, more animated and worried. He was probably a strong man in his youth, perhaps even an athlete. His voice carries a Midwestern accent. Okay, I got that one wrong then. We are only interested in whether he likes blank bodies. You and Benoit look at each other. This is bad news. Whatever these three are, they can't be good for you. We need to get out. Let's meet outside. Move discreetly. Better not to call attention to yourself. You decide to move to the side of the cathedral and pretend to pray at an altar. You walk casually towards the side, away from the three approaching mortals. You feel their eyes boring into the back, but you force yourself to be cool. Benoit is nowhere to be seen. You blinked and he disappeared in a burst of speed. You're worried it was too conspicuous, but maybe the mortals missed it. You pretend to admire the architecture for a while before glancing back at the trio. They have settled at the exact spot you occupied, apparently waiting for something and conversing in hushed tones. Once you're sure their attention is elsewhere, you start briskly walking down the side aisle towards the exit. That was a close call. Who were those three? Did you recognize them? I might have. I'm not sure. There's talk of a few tenacious vampire hunters living in the city. One of them's supposed to be a woman in a wheelchair. For a second, Benoit looks at you as if wondering whether he should say something. There's one thing I've always wondered about the story of Cain. The traditions of the Camarilla put a lot of faith in the relationship between sire and child. You're supposed to follow the example of your maker, yet Cain didn't really seem to care for the vampires he embraced. Did he think it was a mistake to create our kind? My sire left me. Is that common amongst the kindred? Yes, unfortunately. The kindred are selfish and cruel. You know, I'm Sophie's child, and you're her protege. It's amazing that we share an appreciation for the mythologies of our kind, considering Sophie has little interest in questions of the spirit. You stare at Benoit. You knew there was something he wasn't telling you, but in all the talk of Cain in the first city, you forgot about it. Now the only question is, what does this mean? Does Sophie know her child is talking to you? Probably not. Don't hold it against me, but I admit finding some pleasure in seeing you suffer the effects of Father Anthony's faith. I suppose that's the demon in me. Push me and I'll push you back. You push Benoit seemingly gently, but your vampire strength slams him against a car parked nearby, shattering a side window and leaving a dent. A couple passers-by turn to look, then quickly walk away, not wanting to get involved. As you walk towards him, Benoit's features twist in fear and rage, and then he disappears using the speed of the blood to run. Doing this on the street might have been a bad idea. You're left wondering whether there will be repercussions. Oh, fuck. The fucking daredevil's pissed with me. You come back to your haven after a long night out. Right before you open the door, you notice something strange. The sound of the television are coming from inside your apartment. Madmen, if you're not mistaken. You open the door and carefully peek in. A young disheveled woman is curled up on your sofa. She has a blanket pulled on top of her and is seemingly very comfy. Next to her lies an obvious, unconspicuous, preppy woman. Oh, you're home. The woman reaches for the remote and puts Mad Men on pause. You weren't home, so I started without you. You know, Netflix and chill. Join me. There's space on the sofa. I brought us a snack. You enjoyed it the last time. The woman points lazily to the unconscious girl. Oh, I forgot. My name's Adderley Davies. I like you a lot. Help yourself and settle in. Please go. I don't want you to be here. Adelaide bounces up from the sofa with surprising energy. I go to all this trouble and this is the thanks I get? I could get angry from being treated like this. For a second, Adelaide's words worry you, but then you notice the playful glint in her eye. You're playing hard to get. It's adorable. I'm not playing hard to get. Oh, I think you are, you sweet little thing. This is fun. You should really get mad at me. The door to your apartment opens. Someone with a key. Sophie. Adelaide Davis, the scourge of Snug Harbour, in the flesh. This is a new low for you, fledgling. Adelaide looks at Sophie murderously before fading from view. I hate it when they disappear. They should have enough manners to slink away in embarrassment so we can all enjoy it. Sophie waits for the door of the apartment to close before she speaks. The Clan of the Moon. Did I not advise you caution when dealing with them? As you watch, Sophie makes a phone call. 10 minutes later, 2 of her servants arrive to remove the unconscious girl sprawled on your sofa. You clearly need my help. It won't happen tonight, but let me see if I can resolve your stalker problem for real. You're left wondering what Sophie meant by that as she leaves your haven. Great, we have a stalker. I love being popular. I've had stalkers in the past, it's really quite weird. Sophie requests your presence tonight, and it seems urgent. You find her already waiting for you and clearly pondering something. It takes a few minutes of awkward silence before she speaks. I require your assistance, Skye. There's a matter of great importance that I need you to resolve for me. You'll find what I'm about to say surprising, I'm sure, but I need you to hear me out. I need you to contact an important anarch figure in New York and arrange a meeting for us. Aren't meeting with the anarchs forbidden? We're at war, right? The prince does look unfavourably at those who meet with the anarchs, that much is true. You will find that with this, as with many other things, the Camarilla's policies have more than their share of hypocrisies inherent in them. It comes in hand with using medieval power structures. We are forbidden to do, the prince may do willingly. Some of these things can be done in the open, while others are kept in secret as not to invite discord and discontent. I need to contact a man named Torque. He's an influential member of the movement and, like most of them, very suspicious of the Camarilla. That's why I'm sending you to extend my invitation. What are you scheming, Sophie? Say I arrange a meeting. What's next? I have something to offer Torque. A chance to set things straight. For the anarchs and for us. Especially for us. From my limited sources adjacent to the movement, I've gathered that your best chance to speak to Torque is to first meet with his right-hand woman, Maya. She's a regular at the club called the Leech Pit. I think it would be best if you presented yourself as an anarch hopeful, a fledgling looking for a place to belong. Only after talking to Torque directly should you mention my name in the meeting. I don't think that's the right approach. Lying to them wouldn't make them trust me. When they find out the truth, they won't be happy or eager to work with us. That might be true, but if you tell Maya outright that I sent you, she's likely to cut you off. She hates our sect, and it will be difficult to make her listen to reason. After tonight, I suggest we do not speak of this again until you arrange the meeting. There are many who would jump at the chance to use this against us. With Kaiser, you have proven you can get the job done, even if it requires additional legwork. I trust you to deal with this task as quickly and covertly as possible. Forgive me, but that's all I can spare for tonight. What I'm asking of you is part of the bigger whole. Trust me. It will all be worth it. I'll do my best. I know you will. Check with Gregory for the address of the Leech Pit. Have Maya introduce you to Torque. When she does, tell him I want to meet him. Let him pick the time and place, but let it be soon. If he proves too guarded, tell him something that will help him gather allies against Boss Kalen. That should pipe his interests. Good luck. And obviously not a word about this to anyone else. Not even any new friends you might have made in recent nights. This stays between us. The way she says the final sentence suggests a not-so-veiled threat, but her warm smile softens that impression. You want her to keep trusting you. You wouldn't want to disappoint her. Gregory gives you the address. The club's in Brooklyn. Apparently it's some kind of heavy metal bar with a dedicated concert space. Time to pay this Maya a visit. This is my kind of place. The place is teeming with people tonight. You arrive in the middle of a concert. The music's loud, almost deafening, and it takes you a while to get used to it. You recognize a phrase or two of the lyrics and realize you know the song they're playing. A poster confirms your suspicion. It's a Life of Agony tribute band, and they're not half bad. A group of a few dozen patrons are tightly packed together, and the smell of their sweat and the smell of their sweat and youthful excited blood overwhelms you momentarily. It's some difficulty that you turn to the task at hand. You've heard your share about the anarchs and how they fit into kindred politics, but only have your short encounter in Corona Park on which to base your actual opinion on the faction. That might have just been a horrible first impression, but you keep your guard up just in case. Ask for Mia at the bar. You start at the bar. Mia was supposed to be a regular, might as well check how true that is. The bartender turns to you as she pours a line of drinks for a group of rowdy patrons. Hey, she has my hair! What can I get you? I'm looking for a girl called Mia. She frequents this club, I've heard. Yeah, she visits every now and then. What do you want with her? Heard she has some things about connections. I'd like to meet someone through her. Yeah, she knows people who knows people. I haven't seen her tonight. Sorry. If I do, I'll let you know you asked for her. You decide to walk the premise some more, hoping that Mia will show. The concert begins to die down. The band is into its first weekly requested encore. A hand on your shoulder, you turn around and come face to face with a lanky woman in a jacket 2 sizes big for her frame. Follow me behind the bar. I've got a few questions and you better give me snappy answers if you know what's good for you. Okay, Robert Smith. She leads you through the bar to a back door that leads into a side room. Indie metal band posters are plastered on every wall. Some of them are 20 or more years old, judging from the tour dates. An old sticky table and some rickety chairs are the only pieces of furniture in here. Sit down. I think I'm comfortable standing, thanks. She shrugs her shoulders. Suit yourself. She leans against one of the walls. The name's Mia. I'm guessing your visit here isn't a happy coincidence. I don't know you, so you're either new in New York, or you keep an outstandingly low profile. Both sound suspect, so before we take the pleasantries further, answer me this. Who do you run with? Camarilla, I guess, but I'm looking to switch. Is that so? She looks at you up and down. It's hard to read her. Okay, sure, I'll bite. But let's get one thing out of the way. She leans in. If this is some clever ploy to oust me from my domain, or if you're here to spy on me and the movement, I'll make sure that you don't enjoy undeath much longer. Got it? You can tell it's a purely rhetorical question. Right, here's the pitch. The Camarilla likes to think they're the vanilla option. With what the Prince bitch Panard pretending that they were always in charge. But New York's never been a fully cammy city. They might have won the city in '99, but cams have had their asses handed to them many times over the years, and the movement's been here as long as they have. Hell, I moved to New York before World War II, and that was a good while after I saw the Camarilla for what they are. A way to keep us all subservient and in line. Oh. I think the game is frozen. Uh-oh. Oh, don't crash. Please don't crash. It crashed. Joy of joys. Joy of happy little joys. Let's see how much we've lost. Hope you all like my slightly vampiric goth makeup. Okay, so we should be at the start of the night. So we're just gonna... skip through all this. Shit. The Ivory Tower will tell you that they're the only safeguard for the traditions, and that's kind of the problem. We're back. There's only one tradition we in the movement feel should be respected: the Masquerade. Everything else? Ask the prince and she'll tell you it's a logical continuation of the Masquerade, but in reality it's just a way to keep the elders powerful and in control. She grimaces. But here's the thing. For all the talk of us bloodsuckers being solitary creatures, we need a community to keep up the Masquerade. Community, yes, but authority, not so much. We need a council of peers to keep the assholes and power-drunk fledglings in check, but not a feudal prince to tell you where to feed or who to hunt when they step on her toes. She takes a brief break from her indignant rant. Sounds too good to be true. Maya bares her teeth in a predatory smile. You better believe it. Sure, we still have to struggle with the urges of our kind, but it's safer and more fair. We're as free as our condition permits, but unlike Arturicus, we don't stand alone. Normally, a guy by the name of Callahan has been overseeing the movement agenda in New York for the past few decades. Most follow his lead. Most, but not you. Yeah, not me. If you're concerned about being well received in this city, you might need to get through Callahan. But if you're serious about the Anak cause, he's not your guy. Callahan eats up fledglings like you and shits out his self-preservation. His position as Baron is mighty shaky now, not least due to the fact he's backstabbed more than his share of allies. So he's doing what any other old fart in position of power would do. He's doubling down. Negotiations are out, intimidation's in. Tightening ranks as a precaution against the Second Inquisition. She surprises you by hacking and spitting on the ground in disgust. If you spent some time with the Cams, that should sound very familiar to you. He's no better than Panhard and our cronies are at this point. No, you need to contact Torque, and you know it? It's your lucky night because I'm the lick to do it through. Torque, huh? Why him? Because he's one of the good guys, or at least as good as we lichers can get. I need to check something. Okay, Arturicus, the Unbounded. Vampires who remain outside their larger kindred society of a given city, either by ignorance or by choice. Usually considered anarchs by members of the Camarilla, though most Unbound have nothing to do with the movement. Torque's a leader, a local baron who's overseeing a small domain, but doing a very good job of it. Callahan knows this, so he's giving him shit. Torque's taking it like a champ. He's smart like that. For one of us rebels, he's got the practice of patience of a saint. Makes you think back to how things used to be, way back when, if stories are to be believed. Anyway, you want to meet him? I'm going to require a show of goodwill first. That's fair. What do you have in mind? She flashes you a mischievous half smile. I appreciate your readiness, but I don't have the details just now. Ask me at the bar when you're able. I'll leave something for you and we'll take it from there. Now come on, I gotta go. She walks you out of the bar and you go your separate ways. Seems like there's nothing more to do than return here later and see if Maya really can help you contact Torque. Let's go talk to Hope. But we are going to take a quick break real fast. I'm just going to have a quick snack because I haven't had a meal yet. Be right back. So, just there, um, I just read an incredibly funny thing. So, for those of you, so Piers Morgan is a twat. For those of you who do not know who Piers Morgan is, um, he is a what we can describe in the loosest possible term as journalist, um, who has just been in a lot of shit because he's a twat. Um, he's had controversies about stalking people. He um, he was kind of behind the big phone hack thing that happened in like the mid early 2000s. He's had a weird obsession with Meghan Markle. He's had complaints from Ofcom, who are the British kind of like government, the Office of Communications. And throughout, he's basically got a Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson, is that him? Um, yes, Tucker Carlson, Bill O'Reilly style show that's just come out in the UK. And it was advertised everywhere, like, on bus stops, on signs, and they were all kind of those shitty generic posts where it's like him doing something like that, and it's like he's back, or peers, uncensored, and stuff like that. Apparently, it is getting so little viewers, where it was projected to get 65,000 due to its primetime slot. Apparently, it's getting so little viewers that some statistics register it as 0. So, we can officially say, despite the fact that only 2 people are currently watching this stream, I am more popular than Piers Morgan. I have a higher viewer ratio than Piers Morgan. And I'm dressed like this, playing a vampire game, eating Doritos. Get fucked, Pierce. When you reach the cafe, you're welcomed by the familiar face of the waiter who first led you inside. You exchange looks and nods. He hides his vape pen in a back pocket. She's been expecting you. Something's happened to her car and she hasn't exactly left her room ever since. He scratches his head, shrugs and gestures at you to follow him. It's the same room as before. First, beyond the locked door at the end of the room where all the computers, then into an endless grey labyrinth. Finally, you reach a door that would look like any other to a random bystander. Of course, by now you know that Hope's Haven lies beyond it. The waiter bids you adieu with an exaggerated bow and starts walking back to the cafe. You enter the familiar room. This time, the lights are on inside. Hope's inside, walking around nervously, overseeing every screen in sight. When she spots you, she wastes no time on introductions. I am not okay at all. Cara Montgomery, what do you know of her? Not a lot. You could have seen her in listicles such as Top 5 Badass Women in Tech 2018, 12 CEOs who spark innovation through empathy, or 20 entrepreneurs with mysterious ties to Jeffrey Epstein. Fuck me, we're going into this, are we? You don't get to voice your answer. The question was just a minor courtesy. She has a monologue to deliver and she won't allow any interruptions. 20 years ago, she was a failed .com investor. Now she's the CEO of Double Spiral, a brand management startup, working at the crossroads of big data and influencer culture. The quotation marks are audible, dripping with venom. Long story short, she spent years convincing her Camarilla contacts, as in out-of-touch old farts angry at smartphones, that Kindred can benefit from controlling the internet. Her IT ghouls have done a lot of research on deepfakes, AI, and machine learning. Her goal is the ability to generate thousands of believable human online accounts. Basically, an army of posters that could brute force anything into the mainstream discourse. The elders took a while to get the concept, but eventually, Kara got their blessing. The thing is, she claims her tech is ready to be tested, but it needs one final component to work properly, and that's why... She pauses. She proposed a truce. Truce? What kind of truce? Malk David Chapman. The become my friend or face a violent death kind of truce. Not exactly fucking convincing, if you ask me. But no matter how much I hate her guts, this is a blessing in disguise. Hear me out. She picked a public place in Manhattan, neutral ground where we can meet without the fear that the other party might do something stupid and violate the Masquerade. She wants to just talk. You will go there in my place and listen to her terms. We won't accept them, of course, especially not after she just tried to kill us. You will just steal her voice and walk away. Steal her voice? What's next? You want me to trade her mermaid tail for legs? Context collapsed. A Disney joke? Sweet. What next? You hit me with a topical Harry Potter reference? No, because we hate turfs here. I'm not trying to be obtuse here. Wait a second and let me explain my plan. Revenge plotter. You see, there is only one way to even the odds. We have to hit Kara where it hurts, and she's only got one weak point. Double Spiral headquarters. Kara's the only person there with access to every room. The security is something she came up with herself. Voice-based, but using a different password phrase every time. That means just recording her talking's not enough. If we want to get in, that's why I started selling illicit materials to keep people with access to advanced deepfake audio technology. I've got it right in this room, and now all I need is a sample base that will allow me to manufacture a bot that talks like her. To monitor data, I need to stay behind. So it's that thing that they used in The Mandalorian. Still, I think the plan's pretty simple. You talk to her while wearing a wire, I process the recordings here to steal her voice, and voila, she's wide open. Then, we invade Double Spiral and destroy it from within. The evil is defeated, I become part of your crew, happy ending for everyone. How does that sound? Sounds fun. Happy to hear it. Hope shakes her head and claps her hands. When she speaks, she sounds different. More spaced out. Stuttering. Anti-social engineering. Alright, let me fix you up with the hardware. She hands you a minuscule earpiece and starts attaching a small decorative pin to your clothes, along with some masked wiring. It's a directional microphone. I can clear up the audio later, but keep it pointed directly at Kara as much as possible. Alright? I've noticed something. Since I started streaming, I've stopped stuttering as much. You put on the earpiece she gave you. It fits snugly deep inside your right ear. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. The hardware works flawlessly and the audio quality seems great. You give Hope an affirmative sign with your head. Beautiful. Kara designated the meeting place as the vessel. You've heard about the place, right? It's right by the eastern end of the Lincoln Tunnel. A giant pile of staircases, basically impossible to miss. Manhattan's answer to the Eiffel Tower, or a gaudy monument to being only ever so slightly free, depending on who you ask. I'd drive you there, but my car's still in the shop, and I don't want to risk being spotted by Kara's people. And I need to process the voice data from here. Which means I have a perfectly acceptable number of excuses for not letting myself get anywhere close to that demonic old hag. You involuntarily roll your eyes a little bit. Hope sits in front of her screens, pretending not to have noticed. So we should get this show on the road, or what? Ready whenever you are. No sense lingering here. You get back to the street and find your car. Wrapping up this show as quickly as possible sounds like a good idea. Around 30 minutes later, you're in front of the vessel. Hope's description, a giant pile of staircases, wasn't particularly helpful. From a distance, the building looks more like a giant honeycomb designed to swarm with tourist bees. At least during the day, that is. At the moment, the place is closed to the general public. A few men who look vaguely threatening and out of place are making sure no unwanted guests get in. However, you have no problem getting up the stairs. All it takes is an exchange of knowing glances with one of the guards. You're expected. A lone figure appears in your sight, staring down at the streets of Manhattan. You know, city people often complain about being unable to see the starry skies, but I always thought the real tragedy was how they're unable to appreciate the man-made sea of lights that surrounds them. You can teach people a lot of things, but you can't teach them to see, huh? You recognize the face from Hope's phone. Finally, you meet Kara Montgomery in the flesh. She turns to you, puts on a wide smile, and shakes your hand with a firm grip. First, a representative of Sophie Langley, now a representative of Hope. Not the way I'd develop my career, but I gotta say, not many neonates get around the way you do. Hardy fucking ha. At contents under pressure. Hope speaks through your ear for the first time, seething with contempt. Although Kara couldn't possibly have heard her, she immediately goes on to address her absence. Can't say I expected her to actually arrive here, with you or instead of you. On the other hand, I'm sure every single word I say will be instantly relayed to her. Chinese Democrat. And for the first time in forever, your empty blabbering will serve an actual useful cause. So let me make sure we cut out everyone but the middleman for a while, okay? She takes out her phone and taps the touchscreen. In a few seconds, the barely perceptible sound of buzzing in your ear disappears completely. You can't hear Hope anymore. It's probable she can't hear your voice right now, either, which would mean that she must be beyond raging and cursing at everything in sight at the moment. This obviously wasn't something she expected to happen. Could it be that Kara saw through your plan? You have to play it cool and see what happens next. Knowing Hope, you've probably heard about whatever scraps you can be googled about me and pile of insults for good measure. Obviously I know everything there's to be known about you as well, Skye. I don't believe we need a formal introduction, but first off let me apologise for the discomfort my former employee has caused you. I wasn't remotely aware of his planned actions against Hope. I fully condemn them. I'm glad to see you unharmed and of course applaud your swift disposal of the psycho. Langley shows you well. A brief silence. So let me cut to the chase here and present myself the best way I know how, through my ideas. Who do you think has a monopoly on reality? Not much for small talk, is she? Who do you think has a monopoly on reality? Corporations do. That's a fairly typical answer. Very 21st century sounding. Have they succeeded in replacing the state here, though? She signals to someone behind you. For a while, you've been watched by Kara's men, who circle around the staircase, presumably her ghouls. One of them sets off downstairs. You know, Bolivia just had a military coup. Hundreds of new accounts posting about nothing but Bolivian politics in English set out to convince every random person online that the US wasn't to blame. Sloppy work, if you ask me. Now imagine this, a 17-year-old K-pop fan from Ohio writing an entire thread about how relatives in La Paz are actually glad the president is gone. A film reviewer with a side interest in politics, selling you CIA-approved narratives about Evo Morales, an approachable fitness guy explaining the situation to you in simple terms, just like it is. Animated voice, expressive gestures, and steady eye contact. She taught herself how to project a good image, but it isn't natural yet. At times it feels like she's screaming at you to trust her. It's not hard to emulate the masses. Reach out to one of those Eastern European troll farms and bang, a few hours later you have a clone army that will instantly voice their support for any cause. You'll spread your message, but you won't foster a new culture that serves your goal, won't masquerade your messaging as independent thought. For that you need personalities, not the masses. But the ability to emulate personalities? A whole different ball game. Not a craft, but an art. You need to understand your fabrication so deeply that you start to hate it and learn to love it. And if you want to make a bunch of those personalities follow one agenda, you need a once-in-a-lifetime team to achieve that. A like-minded artistic collective, both ambitious and obedient. Even though you can't hear Hope's voice on your ear right now, you could swear you hear her in Kara's speech. It's the exact same tone she was using when monologuing in the car. One of them must have been a big influence on the other. Or perhaps they used to be in a position where they both shaped each other's personas. Hard to say. Only one thing is for sure. And that is, Hope must be absolutely furious right now. It's possible that Kara knew about her plot. Fingers crossed she doesn't. The state is satisfied when an account that went unused for 5 years suddenly starts yelling imperialist propaganda into the void. The aging corporations are too set in their ways. But imagine a fresh startup that enables the proliferation of ideas adjacent to the prince's plans for the future. Now imagine it getting into bed with the biggest corporations and agencies. So many unlives that could be improved, or even saved from raids of First Light. I have the infrastructure, I have the elder support. All I need now is a mastermind at the centre of it. Hope. Yes, Hope. She looks down and takes in the scenery below for a while. Then she points at her t-shirt, the one piece of clothing that clashes with the rest of her outfit. You know, I'm a huge fan of punk. The leading idea of my company, Double Spiral, is to make everything I do a little bit punk. I'm all about clashing ideas. I'm all about disruption. You blink a few times in quick succession. Oh god, you think to yourself. She's that kind of person. You saw a lot of them in your old life. Another establishment asshole co-opting everything, anti-establishment, blasting Fugazi while running lives via Excel spreadsheets. You should clip that moment then and see if you can convert it to a GIF. You might have punched a boss cut from the same clock once. You collect yourself and escape from memory lane. Kara started talking about Hope, so you better listen. To me, Hope is as punk as it gets. A free spirit, Fiery, independent, and eternally contrarian, at odds with everything and everyone, developing her talents just because she finds it joyful. But God, does the girl need guidance. Not putting her talents to better use, rotting away posting inane bullshit all the time. What a waste. I have built an environment specifically to develop her talents and let her become indispensable to our society, but she rejects it because of some idiotic hang-ups. I don't expect you to change your mind about me just because I keep yapping and yapping. I just hope you'll keep my perspective in mind and serve as a voice of reason that Hope really needs right now. Now that I've had my say, how will we put our girl back on? She taps her phone again. A quiet buzz reappears in your right ear. This is a better safe than sorry kind of thing, isn't it? There's no one listening in. Maybe you're right. Maybe not. At VPN Samurai. She's 100 years too early to even think of accessing my comms. She's bullshitting you. Don't sell her anything but bullshit in return. Look who's back. Don't worry, she should have heard everything. I just wanted to spare you an annoying commentary track while I introduce myself. Excuse me for a second. One of Kara's guards approaches to show her something on his phone. Hope uses this as a distraction to get you up to speed with how things are on her side. Hate America beat. Yeah, for a second there I was about to rage that the hag had gotten the better of us, but hey, go figure, she just wanted to take a piss in my Cheerios. The plan worked. I have a lot of data from her monologuing and some private sources, but the more we gather the better. This display here has some more K letters could be useful. So don't beat yourself up about it if you fail, but if you get to repeat something with K in it, that might improve our deepfake voice. Looks like Kara's done talking to the guard. Sorry about that. Looks like we got a sudden meeting with a Google representative shortly. Hope snorts. Not bragging though. By the way, does anyone but Hope know about this little rendezvous? The patron? Any other companions? Or maybe the Nosferatu? Nobody. It's just us. Should I have told anyone? Maybe. Maybe not. It just says a lot about your personality is all. Anyway, no offense, but since Hope's not here, I really have to rush. Honestly, I feel a little insulted that she set up this meeting and didn't even bother to show up. Insulted and suspicious, her tone of voice betrays her. She might have some good instincts. Too bad she didn't trust them here. Still, out of respect for Langley, I decided to have this talk with you. To explain you why I'm an asset to the Camarilla, and to explain why the elders need Hope by my side. What the one investigate double spiral now. What the one-brained hag here forgets to mention is the elders don't give a shit about me. Even if you don't see it my way now, I believe I've sown some seeds here that might sprout in the near future. Double spiral looks out for people who look out for it is all I'm saying. Before I leave, there's one thing I really wish I knew. Back when I knew her, she was a different person. Or different people, depending on when you look at it. Why does she fight against me so much? What's her motivation to resist so much? What's her motivation? Good question. She never really shared it with you. V. Answer whatever you want, but A, you better lie through your teeth. Get her to say V a few times if you can. It might improve a few shortcuttings. What's your answer? Survival? Kara snorts. Spare me. If she wants to keep pulling through, she'd have a much better chance by my side. Pride or spite would have been far more believable an answer. Should have told me you either don't know or don't trust me. Survival. V 2 times. Good attempt at least. One of Kara's people erupts with a theatrical cough. Kara gestures at him to calm down. We need to go now. See you around, Skye. She begins to walk down the stairs, surrounded by her guards. When she's gone from behind you, Hope decides to summarize your mission. For the love of Christ, wish you could have kept her drilling on for a little longer. Turns out the T letter could have used some improvement as well. Not complaining though, you did good. And don't worry, the data I have should be more than enough to generate a convincing deepfake. I just need to put in some more work. So I guess I'll do that right away. Enjoy the rest of your night. Drop my hardware at your haven when you get a chance. I'll let you know when we're ready to hit Kara's base of operation. Pray for my success, sweetie. I might be done soon. Maybe even tomorrow. And once we're done with her, we'll talk about how I can repay your generosity. Amen. The connection drops. It looks like that's all for now. You gaze at the sea of lights around you for the last time and then start making your way back to street level. Let's rest another night. Oh, time to talk to Maya. You arrive at the leech pit, finding it less rowdy this time. The bar's still packed, but the dance floor is empty tonight. Instead, the old crackling speakers are playing music that would probably sound like noise even on high-end software. Maya is nowhere to be seen, but you do remember that she requested that you ask for her at the bar. You know her face behind the bar. The woman doesn't seem to recognize you though. You imagine you were just another patron in a sea of strangers the other night. What can I get you? I was told to ask you about Maya. Yeah? Well, she's not in tonight. She looks you up and down and a spark of recollection shines in your eyes. Oh! Yeah, that's right. She takes a well-worn book from behind the counter, some kind of young adult vampire novel, and flips through it. She produces a piece of paper from between the book's pages and passes it to you. She told me you'd be interested in reading this. You find a relatively quiet corner and take a look at the note. T wants to meet you. I'll arrange it, but I need you to look I need to prove you're trustworthy. Look around the leech pit for a guy named Bruce. Buff dude, tattoo sleeve on his right arm. I'm 90% sure he's someone retainer, sent here to spy on us by the cam. Get me the name of his master and write it on this card, then return it to the bar. It doesn't take you long to locate this Bruce guy. He sits alone in a corner. 2 beer glasses already empty on his table. You take a moment to consider your approach. Get him drunk and talkative. The man immediately notices you but doesn't move from his spot. The other seats are empty. Hey, do I know you? You look familiar. Oh right. I think I saw you here before, yeah? Yeah, I was at the concert the other night. Yeah, that's right. And then you went behind the bar with that hot chick. What'd I do for some time alone with her? Anyway, anything I can help you with, or are you just looking for someone to chat with? How about I buy you another beer? I don't say no to beer, and I definitely don't say no to free beer. A short while later, you return with a drink. The guy's been eyeing you the whole time. He picks up the glass and takes a big gulp. Oh yeah, that hits the spot. It takes a second drink to really loosen him up, and a third to make him somewhat more chatty. You learn the story of his tattoo. He tells you about his gym routine, an actual drama series he's been when watching on YouTube, and where his favourite spot to fuck girls is. At no point does he let it slip anything that would point to him being somebody's ghoul, though. In fact, you're beginning to suspect he's not nearly as drunk as he acts. Well, that was nice, but I gotta go. Thanks for the drink. Hey, wait a minute. You haven't had anything to drink this whole time. No. I don't really do that stuff anymore. I don't know for a fact your master doesn't either. Any suggestion of his drunkenness is immediately gone. Sorry, my what? A hint of panic appears on his face. Answer the fucking question if you know what's good for you. Your master's name. Now, please. He doesn't buy it. You thought you had him cornered, but he suddenly leaps over the table in one smooth move and dashes into the sparse crowd. You catch up to him outside. He's bolting, alright. Throwing caution to the wind, you focus your blood and give chase after Bruce. He might be faster than a human, but his abilities are a fraction of yours. He dashes into a nearby alley and you follow suit. Before he can jump the fence, you tackle him to the ground. A short brawl later, you're standing a few meters apart, Bruce eyeing you with hatred. Here's the deal. You tell me your master's name and you save yourself a world of hurt. Unless you want to exit this alleyway through a stretcher, you'd better... Bruce doesn't wait for you to finish talking. He jumps at you, kicking and punching at dizzying speed. He takes you by surprise and he puts you on the defensive. Just as you're about to retaliate, he breaks away, jumps the fence at the end of the alley and is gone into the parts of the city unknown. Time to do something for Maya. You borrow a pen from the bar and flip Maya's note to the other side. You have a whole bunch of nothing to go on, but that won't work. You figure it might be better to leave any name for Maya, even if you have to pull out your ass. On second thought, you doubt the Anarchs would appreciate being led astray. You leave the page blank. You pass the piece of paper to the bartender. She sticks it back in the same book. Hold on 1 second. She wanted me to pass something on to you. She produces a cell phone behind the counter. It's ancient, at least 15 years out of date. Oh right, and this. An old charger for the piece of junk in your hand. They really did think of everything. She said she'll be in touch. It takes you to remind yourself how to operate this thing. And when you find that its phone book is blank, there's no Wi-Fi connectivity and no saved message. It's got a version of Snake though. The bartender's already over at the other end of her domain, taking orders from patrons. With your adult contact nowhere in sight, you decide to move on for the night. Hopefully Maya will still call you even if you're left her with no new information whatsoever. You can't bring yourself to count on it though. Yeah, I love a bit of Snake. Alright, who should we go work for? Do some work for now? We have, of course, the Warlock, the Nosy Reporter, the Detective, the Stalker, Hope Again, or the Battle of the Cloisters. It was an open question, by the way. Jack, you are allowed to pitch in. Let's say we do. I'm trying to continue. We could do more of Hope's story, but I'm kind of trying to continue everyone roughly at the same pace. Let's do the detective. Knowing there are only so many places with a good enough view of the Manhattan Bridge, you decide to check the ones that aren't likely to be crowded at this time of night. It doesn't take long before you hit the jackpot, Jane's Carousel. As you're walking along the pier, you notice a lonely figure sitting on a bench, steel flask in hand, his legs up on a railing. Soon enough, you hear a familiar voice. Evening turned to night, and as the final flickering rays of sunlight gave way to the kind nocturnal shadows, so did the last of the jabbering tourists give way to blessed silence. And yet I couldn't shake the feeling. Pausing mid-sentence, he leans back over the bench backrest and looks straight at you. Upside down, his face looks even creepier than usual. That I wasn't alone. What is it with you and narrating? Takes the edge off. Just like this. He takes a sip, then points the flask in your general direction. Fancy a sip? Sure, why not? You take the flask and take a swig. It's blood, alright, mixed with some other frivolous substances, some of which you recognise, while others you probably don't want to know. That's the spirit. Now that you're good and soused, there's something I've been meaning to tell you. There's been another one. Killing, I mean. Down by the docks. Same MO? The blood, the graffiti? Yep, it was our gal, alright. Victim sucked dry, same as before. Another sign on the wall. Something about impending doom, and oh lord, he coming. The particulars escape me. You know, the night I saw her, she looked so frail, so innocent. Deep inside, I was hoping she'd be spooked, get out of town. Then maybe, just maybe, that would be the end of it. But that's me, you know, hopefully optimistic. You know why she's doing it? Doesn't really matter at this point. Whether she's Kane's chosen or just another poor girl gone nuts after a botched embrace, one thing's painfully clear. He gives you a look full of worry and sadness. She ain't gonna stop. He takes a swig as if to punctuate the sentence. So anyway, I've set up a meeting, neutral ground, public space, shouldn't get too ugly. Still, I was hoping you could tag along. Who are we meeting? He takes another compulsive swig. Better strap in, because this one's a doozy. Unless you want me to introduce you... Unless you want to introduce me to your parents, I can probably handle it. Come on, who is it? Valerie. Valerie. As in the murderous bitch Valerie. Likes to choke people out for the fuck of it Valerie. That Valerie. You ever notice that you repeat a word enough times it starts to sound like an animal noise? But yeah, that Valerie. I know you two didn't exactly hit it off, but she's not as bad as you might think. I mean, in some respects she's probably worse, but she can't be reasoned with. Once again he goes for the flask, but stops himself mid-motion. Look, the way I see it, we ain't got a choice. As much as I want to help Sana, she's clearly a few bats short of a belfry. More people are gonna die unless we do something about it. I get it. Lesser of two evils. Lead the way then. I like your attitude, kid. I know it sucks, but hey, if there's one thing life has taught me, you don't always get what you want. Mostly proud of his words of wisdom, he tries to stop them with one last swig. A single drop falls between his crooked teeth. He looks at the empty flask with the utmost contempt. Well, ain't that fucking poignant? Muttering a curse under his breath, he makes a valiant effort to get up off the bench. As he staggers, struggling to remain upright, you offer your shoulder to lean on. He shoots you with smiles as crooked as it is affectionate. Hey kid. You meet his gaze, trying to look friendly rather than condescending. You're alright. And with that heartfelt moment, you bid adieu to the sprawling vistas and make your way towards the bridge. Next stop, Manhattan. Entering the park from Midtown Manhattan, you promptly take a spot by one of the alleys, not very deep in the park. Minutes pass. 5, 10, 15. You start to wonder if she's ever going to show up. Suddenly you hear a familiar voice, but with an unfamiliar tone. She sounds almost nice. Hello, Ginny. And there she is, walking along the side of the fountain. She looks less out of place here than back at the junkie-infested hovel, but only by a slight margin. Something tells you that there are so many places in the world she would feel at home, and probably not one that you would want to find yourself in. Val. She glances over at you, barely noticing your presence. Sorry about last time. Nothing personal, you understand. When I get caught up in the moment, I can get a bit intense. I can attest to that. Can you two just get a room? Because the sexual tension's unbearable. D'Angelo gives you a pleading look. He clearly doesn't want to dwell on the subject. You hear that, Ginny? Your friend has us all figured out. She takes a step towards you, and the smell of her perfume is overpowering. Or maybe it's just jealousy. Although I'd be careful if I were you. Last time we got close, it didn't exactly work out for you. Speaking of which, how's the neck doing? It's fine. I barely felt it anyway. She can tell you're lying. You can tell she's enjoying herself. I'm so glad. Now let's get down to business. We're here to talk about Sana. Who? Oh right, the thin blood. What about her? The girl's a threat. We need to find her. Figured we can do it faster if we all work together. Uh-huh. Keep going, honey, because I feel like there's a catch coming. The catch is... Awkward silence. It's not often you see him at a loss for words. Seeing him struggle, you decide to jump in. We want the girl alive. See, now that's a deal breaker right there, sugar. If you want me to even consider it, you'll have to sweeten the pot. Once again, she turns to D'Angelo. And I bet tall, dark and handsome over here might have some ideas. Just tell us what you want. Oh, you're no fun anymore. She wants a higher profile target. To show off to the prince what a good little scourge she is. That's all you care about nowadays, huh? Playing the game? Climbing the ranks? A smile creeps onto her lips. You can tell it's forced. D'Angelo definitely knows how to get under her skin. That's my Ginny. A big old brain and a heart to match. Once again she turns to you. I knew right away he'd try to help this girl. He does love himself a damsel in distress. But you, I'm still not sure what your angle is. What do you care? I don't. Not really. It's called making conversation. So there, you know my terms. Contact me when you made up your mind. Don't take too long, though. I'm a lucky girl. I might just find your little thin blood on my own. Still, I hope we can work together. We did always make a good team back in the day, didn't we? Slowly, seductively, she puts her arm around his shoulders. She glances over to you, clearly enjoying how awkward it makes you feel. You really do have a thing for the hidden, don't you? My things are none of your concern, sugar. Anyway, withdrawing from the stranger's half embrace, she flicks D'Angelo's nose gently with her index finger. Almost instantly, she turns from flirtatious to dispassionate. However this plays out, I have a feeling we'll meet again, sooner than later. Until then, without sparing you another glance, she disappears down an unlit park alley. D'Angelo watches her go. The look on his face is a mixture of longing and guilt. It's borderline comical. Hello, lovely scientist. Thank you for the lovely words. I'm very goth today. Finally, he turns back to you, as if breaking some spell he was under. Well, that could have gone a lot worse. Okay, I have to ask, did you and she ever... Nope, we're not going there. Val and I, we got some history. Some of it good, some of it bad. Let's just leave it at that. Every sentence D'Angelo says, it sounds like he's going to take a draw from that cigarette he's holding. And kid, don't be fooled. Val likes to play around, but she'll rip your fucking guts out and stuff them up your ass if it means she can get what she wants. How are you doing, lovely scientist? It's great to see you. And right now, she wants me to give her Larson. Larson? Why would she want him? He's a primogen, remember? A weak one, but still. For a scourge, he's a much more valuable target than some no-name Duskborn. And it just so happens that a certain someone might have dirt on him. He squints, rubbing the bridge of his nose. Fuck it. I'm heading back to the office. I need to put my feet up and get some blood flow into the old noggin. You coming? You nod. Why the hell not? And so, you make your way towards 5th Avenue. You got a long way ahead of you, and a lot of stuff to figure out. What you been up to since we last got to hear from you, scientist? You too, Chorus, if you have time. Share with the group. Although it's not your first visit, you still find it hard to navigate the dark, rust-ridden corridors of the grain terminal. Luckily, this time you're with someone who could have probably done it blindfolded, so you just follow his lead. As you're both climbing the rickety stairs leading to the mezzanine, you suddenly notice the light coming from his office. A quick look assures you that no, he in fact did not leave it on. You bust through the door like undead Tango and Hutch. Or was that Turner and Cash? Ready to unleash an unholy fury of the intruders. You half expect an anarch death squad or an SI hunting party. Instead, you get Larson, who nearly falls out of the chair when you two burst in. Well, look who it is. Missed us already? Hardly. Seemingly both intrigued and irritated by the surprise visit, D'Angelo walks over to a cabinet and pulls out a fresh cigar. Then may I ask what brings you, O venerable primogen, to my humble abode? Her. He points at a tiny shadow cowering in the corner of the room. Went Euro truck driving with Ellen. Was quite fun. Also, my IR friend Liz made it home in Brazil, Chanel, India for teaching English as a second language job. I stayed up with her a good bit the last several days because I promised her parents to keep her company on her travels. It was also fun. That's good. Very busy. Tired now, but almost felt like I travelled too. Yeah, I know the feeling. I guessed it was fun. He points at a tiny shadow cowering in the corner of the room. To your astonishment, it turns out to be a very familiar face. The blood. No. Not again. Please. Where'd you find her? Outside my front door. She must have heard of me. Found out where I lived. It's not uncommon for my knowledge among the Dustborn. She probably figured I could help, but honestly I have no idea what to do with her. I mean, I should turn her to the prince, but that's just another strike against my people. Then again, I can't just set her loose, not after what she did. Fuck. D'Angelo, you can tell I'm desperate, as my first instinct was to come to you. No, Larson, I would attribute that decision to what's left of your common sense. He leans over to you. Hey kid, I think we should call it a night. Just give me some time to talk to the girl. Maybe I'll get through to her somehow. The sign, it's always there. Though I ain't holding my breath. Honestly, you're glad to leave him to it. Spending the night in a small room with a tiny serial killer somehow doesn't seem to be too appealing. Still, you're hoping D'Angelo will be alright. He's got some tough choices ahead of him. A piece of paper is sticking out of your mailbox. There's a computer printout, a note and a screenshot from Google Maps. It reads, meet me at the indicated spot tomorrow, 10 PM. I'll pick you up and we'll take it from there. No signature. The place marked on the map is the lookout near Pier 1, just next to the Brooklyn Bridge. You check the phone that Maya passed you. No new messages, no missed calls. It's all a bit fishy, but there's only one way to find out who this is addressed to. Oh, I think I read that sentence completely wrong. Looks like who addressed this to you. Looks like tomorrow evening has been planned out for you. But I wanted to go talk to my stalker. You go downstairs as soon as you wake up. One more glance at the phone, but no news from Maya. You take the car down to Brooklyn, park on Front Street and approach the meeting spot cautiously. A figure of about Maya's size is standing there, dressed in an oversized jacket and looking out towards Manhattan. As you approach, you can hear her muttering something. It's true, but I don't think it's true. It is true, but I do not think it true. If I do not think it true, then it cannot be true. And if it cannot be true, then... Hey, are you the one who left a note at my apartment? The woman turns around. It's not Maya. Whoever it is, you've never seen her before. She looks perfectly plain and unmemorable. The ink on the paper did the message leave. The ink on the paper did your face here bring. You turn around. 3 men, all of them burly and threatening, approach you. One of them takes the lead. So, you got the message. I did. What now? Now? Now you'll come with us. The boss wants to meet you. Oh, you mean talk? What? You gotta be shitting me. Talk ain't the boss of jack shit. I mean Boss Callahan, you dumbass. I suggest you get a move on. We got places to be. The voice of the woman keeps creeping into your consciousness. The litany of gibberish ever present throughout this entire conversation. The man cracks his knuckles. Or we can do it the hard way. Yeah, okay. I'll go with you. Smart. They lead you down the pier and onto a motorboat. The engine starts. Put this on. He points to a cloth sack. One of the guys is holding you down. The woman is still there, whispering to herself. Somehow you hear her voice clearly in your head. It becomes a nagging suggestion to put the sack over your head. You don't really want to do it, but your hands go through the motions all the same. It takes 15 minutes or so to reach your destination. The engine dies down and you are led on shore, and then further up an incline and through some overgrowth. 10 more minutes of walking, maybe, until a deep voice reaches your ear. Vincent, my dear boy, why the hood over our guest's face? Whoa, boss, I thought. No, that will not do. How many times do I have to repeat myself, Vincent? You don't have to think. You have to listen and do what you're told, yes? Yes, boss. Well, take this ridiculous sack off their head, would you? The hood comes off. The owner of the deep voice is a curious sight. Oh, it's a deep voice. Dressed in what can only be described as Victorian clothing, with a monocule and greying red hair. Is this Callahan? Apologies for Vincent's unacceptable behaviour. You can be a little thick sometimes. Isn't that right, Vincent? Yeah, boss. Sometimes. A little. I believe you already know who I am. You're the Anarch Baron. Ain't that the truth? Douglas Callahan is my name, but you may call me Boss. Everyone does, for good reason. I've invited you here to have a friendly chat. Now let me make myself perfectly clear. I'm disappointed in you. Truly disappointed. But I arranged this meeting to allow you to make amends. First, though, I have to make sure you understand what your infraction was. So do you know why you're here? Is it because I wanted to meet with Torque? Ah, yes, you're not stupid. So that's a nice change of pace. Torque is the reason you're here. Or that little angry strumpet of his, I'm told. Yes? Maya? Mia? Mai? It could be one of many. Oh, how I'd love to get my hands on her gaunt neck and wring it until it breaks. But see, I'm a statesman, and that's not the prudent thing to do. No, indeed, the prudent thing to do is tolerate both her and that blasted ebony-skinned mentor of hers. Now that's racist. Look at what the world has become these nights. Here I am, lambasting a black man and a woman in front of a whelp of Asian descent. My papa, rest his soul, would not believe it. Wow! Fuck this guy! Finished with your disgusting rant? Oh, fledgling, you have no idea who you're messing with. He looks at you with rage in his eyes, and you feel insignificant and vulnerable. An irrational fear takes over you. You cannot speak up against this man again. You just can't. He's too terrifying. Now that I have your... He just presenced me! I will request something from you, and you will obey me to the letter, but that comes later. First, you will answer a few questions, the first of which, who pointed you to Mia? Nobody. It was my idea. Oh, really? And what was your intention behind the meeting? I wanted to contact Torque. I had to go through Mia. Ah, yes, the so-called veteran loves to use petite girls to hide behind. I heard. That would check out. What did you end up discussing? She wanted me to do her a favour, to grill a guy named Bruce about his master's name. Was that so? Vincent, do we know this Bruce? I don't know no Bruce, boss. Why am I not surprised, Vincent? I'll investigate this myself later. See, that wasn't hard now, was it? Of course, I can't be sure how much of what you told me was true and how much of it was worth as much as yesternight's horseshit. But I'll find out, I always do. When I do, we'll have another one of these nice talks, and maybe, just maybe, you'll avoid the upcoming unpleasant episode next time. He gives Vincent a sign, and this burly man starts hitting you all over. You feel teeth, ribs, and fingers break. Your foot is mangled under Vincent's boot. Your shoulder dislocated and your nose wrecked. That's enough, Vincent. Leave them be. Diversity win! The racist vampire gets your pronouns correct. He snaps his fingers in front of your face a few times and checks if you can focus on his face. You can, but barely. I'm a man of principle. Another night I would perhaps put you in a casket, dip it in concrete, and dump it in the Hudson. A favourite of mine during the Roaring Twenties. It's been a while. But, like I mentioned before, I am nothing but prudent, and so the interest of this city's kindred must come before my own needs and wants. I will therefore let you continue your existence. Here's what I require in return for this boon. You are forbidden to meet Talk. I will keep an eye on you, on him. If you want to place with the Anarchs, you go through me, and only me. Got it? You have to understand what I made my associate do to you tonight was just business. We can still work out a mutually beneficial relationship. In fact, it's either that or your final death. Time to go, Vincent. Take the boat back. Leave the fledgling here. I think they have a lot to think about. Sure thing, boss. Pleasure meeting your acquaintance. Callahan walks away, as does Vincent and his band of thugs. You lie on the ground for a while, longer, feeling the blood slowly putting your body back together, your hunger growing. You can hear the beast calling, for sustenance, for safety, for revenge, a distant but pronounced third desire. It's not until you mend yourself enough to appear more as a mugging victim that you, an impossibly mangled walking cadaver, that you pile a passing taxi and head back to your haven. The whole way there you're tempted by the beast. Your driver, a 30-something with a strong Slavic accent and an unpronounceable name on his ID, keeps asking if he should drive you to the hospital. You keep declining, all the while thinking that if you'd only asked him to pull over for 5 minutes, you could feast on his warm blood to the beast's content. Drink him whole. Nobody would know. Nobody but his wife and his kids if he has them. Nobody but his boss and his co-workers. Nobody but you as you look in the mirror tomorrow. Keeping your hunger at bay was never before as difficult as tonight. The driver stops at your apartment building. There's nobody around. You can do it. Do it now. Now! You pay the driver and walk out. Fast. Leave the car behind. Don't look back. Look behind. Walk back. Feed. No. Through the door. Up the stairs. Key in the lock. Open the apartment. Walk in. Lock yourself in. The familiar four walls of your haven are a blessing. The beast inside you keeps nagging, but you kept it at bay tonight. Not a small feat given your state. You're still weak. You're still not quite mended. You need to rest. Tomorrow, you have to feed again. Tomorrow, you have to consider your next move. Callahan's not the kind of man who quits. But tonight, you rest. And on that bombshell, we're going to rest, chat, and call it a stream. This was a bit of an impromptu one. Bit of an impromptu stream tonight. For Vampire the Masquerade Coteries of New York, because we missed the one on Monday. If you want to catch up, though, with any of the vampire content that you've missed, you can go over and check out the Black Archive on YouTube, where in a few days, they will be uploaded. Right now there is Red Dead Redemption on there, and that is fully up to date. Actually, no, after this stream, I'm gonna see about putting the first 2 episodes on of Vampire the Masquerade Coteries of New York onto YouTube. So make sure to check out the Black Archive. And I'm not sure if we have a command for it. I'm gonna check. But while I'm doing that, if you want to support me in a more direct way, especially, you know, because it's Pride Month, consider subbing with Twitch, throwing some bits, or going over to my Ko-fi. Ko-fi supporters get access to behind-the-scenes content and access to videos early. For updates, the Road 96 video is currently sitting at double what the previous attempt at writing it was at, and I still have so much more to go, but it's going. New videos when they're done. If you want to check out the Black Archive, follow that link, or subscribe to my main YouTube channel, or find me on any other social medias, or join the Skye Blacke Discord for any information that you may need. Let's see if anyone's streaming, and we're going to go on a little raid. We're going to head over to Jick, who's streaming Pokemon Legends Arceus, and say hi. Make sure to use those raid emotes if you've got them, and I'll see you guys again tomorrow for more Red Dead Redemption. Have a good time, everyone. I'm going to love you and leave you, and have a great night. Goodbye.